I'm just trying to get the parts all cleaned up here. One of the things I had to do for this boiler, I'm getting ready to put on the steam assembly, but this boiler had some really sharp edges on the inside. So I took this semi-round file here and I went all the way around on the inside of the flange here, so if you actually would stick your finger in here, you wouldn't cut it. I think that was a manufacturer defect. It had never been cleaned up. And so now that's all cleaned up. And then the thing that I need to do here to put together the steam wand assembly is I've got all the parts. I cleaned this off with semi-chrome, the knob, so it's all polished up, nice and good. I've got to clean off this nut here that holds it. This is the old washer. That's really hard and flat. This one's obviously can move. This one is not even going to move. This is the stem itself. I need to clean it up. I probably will use my bench grinder with a wire wheel on it to clean this up nice. I've got these two washers that go on each side of this rubber seal. They need to be cleaned up a little bit so that they move more easily. I've got the drift pin here, and then we'll set that aside since I don't need it. And then I've got this tool from Tudor to extract actually to put in the drift pin back in. So we'll see how all that goes. One of the important things to do when you're putting back a steam assembly is the shutoff here is basically metal to metal. So this is a chrome piece of brass, I do believe. And what you need to do is to clean off the end. I'm using this red Scotch-Brite because it's a little bit more aggressive. You have to clean off this end till and smooth it off till all the rings and everything are gone in it. You may actually need to file it. I've had to file it on some before, obviously, and clean off so you're cleaning off this part here, clean off the threads. This is really a nice deal to clean off the threads. You can kind of see that here, and then clean off the shaft, or the stem itself here, the shaft, and make sure that it's nice and shiny and smooth, so that you don't have any obstructions and everything. So that's one of the big things to do, is to make sure that this tip is nice and clean and smooth. Okay, I've cleaned off these two washers that fit on the steam wand assembly. They're brass, and I've smoothed them basically with emery cloth. I cleaned off this drift pin. I mean, not drift pin, but this pin. And then I cleaned up this nut that goes on that holds everything in. I don't have to touch this, and obviously I've told you before that I polished up the knob. So the way that everything goes back in here is that you slide on one of these washers, you slide on the nut, the rubber washer, you slide on a brass washer, so this is captured now, so it'll actually compress. And since this has been used before, I just want to make sure that I get the right sides out. So let's do it again. So you can see that this one has a little bit of wear. I'm going to put that toward the threads so they'll have a nice smooth surface around the rubber washer, and put this other brass one back on. So I've got nice smooth sides of the washers toward the rubber washer, and then this nut will go on here also to hold it in. So you have to put all this thing together before you can put the knob on. Actually, I could put the knob on. Yeah, after those go on, I can put the knob on. So a little bit of moly coat. Put them on the threads. This is a really important part here. Put them on both threads so that this thing moves easily. So you don't want to overdo it. And then I also put some moly coat on the rubber washer itself. And since this slides in and out of here on this part, I put a little bit more liberal on the shaft itself here. I'm a little bit more liberal with the moly coat there, so that then this turns really easily. So everything is pretty well cleaned up. I obviously don't need to put anything on the end here. Make sure that's off. We stick this back in like it's supposed to go. And because it threads in, you want to leave this part loose. Here we go, let me do it this way. You're going to leave this part loose initially till you thread this in. And since it's all really well lubed up and everything, you can see that it's moving on its own. So otherwise I could use this pin to stick in here to act as a leverage, but I don't need to do that at this point. And so it's in there now. I just want to make sure it goes in well. And I can take it back out. And since this is going to be used, obviously it's very important that this thing moves easily. I'm going to put, I put some, now the moly coat is inside the assembly itself. So now I'm going to put a double lube this so that I have lots of lubrication inside this part, because this part's really important so it can move freely. And again, just stick it until it's tight and then start turning. Like I said, I could use, you can see it's going in because it, let's see if I can do this a bit easier. Get a pin in here so they can turn this more easily. There we go. Now I get a little bit of leverage. Just anything just to get the leverage. So I just want to make sure I get it go all the way back down, and it seats on the bottom. Now I don't want to tighten this nut out here when this is all the way back in, because you don't want to put any more pressure on this fitting down here than you need to. So just back it back off a couple. Leave it there, and then tighten this. You can tighten this by hand. This is, people think that this is where the seals up the water. That's not what seals up the water. What seals up the water is the rubber washer. Okay, that's what keeps the water from coming out through this thing. So you can hand tighten that, and I just, before I put everything back together, I make sure I get it snug at just a hair. I don't go too tight on this one because I can always snug it later if there's a little bit of a water leak. And then finally, I'll just do this to tighten it up. Now it's tightened all the way down. So the last thing to do is to prep this. And I have never used this tool to try to reinsert the pin in. So I might try that. You don't need to really put anything on this because you don't want this to move. So you don't need to lubricate this. Just need to get it so it seats, and then you want to be able to look down in it and make sure that the hole is showing, and the pin goes in like this. And since I've never done this one before, let's see how it works, huh? We got the dropsies today. We're going to assemble this back on top. What's nice about using this tool is that it does align with the pin so that everything is, you don't break off the bakelite knob itself. And so that's in, and I don't have a hammer here. And how can you tell if it's all the way down? This is drilled all the way through, so this is going to be an interesting deal. I don't think, let's see, I've got this. This is kind of overkill. This will act as a hammer for me. So I get it started. And that's, it's got started. I don't know, I can't see with this tool, so it's kind of, that's the hard part. It's good for taking it off, but for putting it back on, I'm not too sure if I would use this again. I tend to use a pair of channel locks, and once I get it started, to push it down, and you can see, I'll still see it's sticking up like a 1/4 of an inch. So I'll be right back. If you're going to use a pair of channel locks to try to take this last 1/4 inch down, you need to do something that protects the bottom side so that you don't damage the knob itself. So I've got this little piece of rubber with, I think it's leather on the back side. And so I just put it underneath here. And then all I'm trying to do is just to push this pin back in the rest of the way. And there it goes. Nice and easy. Clean it up. Okay, so there it is. It's in place. You can see it. And so let's just try it. So we back it out. It turns really nice and easy. That's about as far as it can go, as you need to go. And then back it. Then turn it down, back down. And I'm going to just see this one more time just to make sure. You know, you can tell by this is, you know, kind of how much torque you've got on it. I think that's plenty good there. I don't want to go any farther. And as I said, I was doing that without the pin in so that it wouldn't drive it down deeper and damage this fitting. So that's the way that it fits in. So the steam assembly is back together. The last thing I'll do is, I'm not going to do it now, but you stick this in this version of this Gen 2. Just stick this on, put this nut on, tighten it. I'll do that part later. I'm just trying to seal everything up right now. I also bought a single hole for the steam wand, and I'll return the single hole and the 3-hole, and you can choose which one you want, but I'll leave it with the single hole. I bought it as a gift, so that's no big deal. So that's the first part. The steam assembly is done.